things that will be on the study guide. So I highly recommend looking at that and looking at it while I'm presenting.
Yeah,
So
I just gave you permissions.
okay, cool.
Okay, perfect. But starting off, do you guys have any questions? Like, if you have any topics that you want to go over, just let us know right now in the chat, and then we can make sure that we cover that in today's little presentation.
Mhm. Okay. All right. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Okay, so hi guys. This is the stress, motivation, and emotion CRAM session for the test that's happening tomorrow. So the first couple modules are about motivation theories. And so basically motivation, it arises from the interplay between nature and nurture. So essentially motivation is the push that we receive from our nature and like our inside. And then motivation can also be the nurture or the pulls that we receive from the outside world. So we'll get into some of these theories and like how they relate to both nature and nurture. So the first theory is the instinct theory that comes with from the nature and is a push, and it's that we are motivated to do certain things because of unlearned patterns. So for example, our fight or flight response is part of instinct theory because we are motivated to either fight or flight because of our instincts that have been developed because of evolution. So sometimes this is also known as the evolutionary theory, but those are a little bit different. So we'll refer to it as the instinct theory instead. And then the next nature oriented theory is the drive reduction theory. And it's that motivation comes from physiological needs and the need to maintain homeostasis within our bodies. So this is where things like hunger, thirst will come in because we'll be motivated, like we'll have a drive for hunger or like a drive to drink some water. And then in order to reduce that drive, we eat and drink. Then incentive theory comes from the nurture part of it, where we are motivated by stimuli that will lure or repel us. So for example, like there will be like we are motivated, like let's say someone says, I'll give you like money for this. That's like a stimuli that motivates us because we would want that money. Or let's say we don't want to eat or drink that food because it's a weird color. So that's something that repels you. Um, and so then the Yerkes-Dodson law is a law that suggests that moderate arousal leads to optimal performance. And so optimum arousal theory holds that we are motivated in order to maintain that optimum level of arousal that can lead to our best performance. And then the final theory is the hierarchy of needs, which shows all of our needs in life. And so our motivations come from wanting to satisfy these needs. So, for example, on the lowest branch is like the most basic need, which is the physiological needs that we have for food, water, and air. And then on the very top of it is self actualization. So, as you go on each step of the hierarchy of needs, you satisfy different types of needs that um, you want in order to reach the final stage, it's a hierarchy of needs. Okay, so the next module is all about hunger motivation. So our body's main craving is glucose, and that's what we get from pretty much every food that we eat because the body just makes it from the molecules that we eat inside. And so when we get hungry, that's like what happens is that the body needs more glucose. And so then we get hungry, and then the body triggers that response with using hormones like ghrelin and leptin. And then, yeah, that's how we get hungry. So the set point is the point at which weight is set. So when it falls below this point, we get hungry. So another thing that works is basically that when there's a lack of glucose that the body needs more of, our weight also goes down. And so when the weight falls below our set point, which is usually like the set point at which we weigh, then we get hungry and then we try to eat to make sure that our weight is stable. This is another way of maintaining homeostasis. Um, and so like another example of this is basically like sometimes like people when they're overweight, like they'll lose a lot of weight and they'll like eat really healthily and stuff like that. And so they lose a lot of weight. But because their body's natural set point is a lot higher than like the weight that they are at, it's very easy to like eat a lot of food and then gain that weight back very quickly. Then the basal metabolic rate is the body's resting rate of energy expenditure. And this also has to do with your weight. And then our hunger is also impacted by situational and cultural factors as well, like memory or taste. So, in terms of memory, like because of the situations we are in, like certain types of foods can give us certain memories of something. So, like, let's say, like, every time I go to like a school, I eat like a sandwich. So, it might be that, like, if I ever eat a sandwich, then I'm reminded of school. And then in terms of taste, like different cultures have different like tastes and like interest in different types of tastes. So like for example, like European food is very like dairy heavy. Like there's lots of dairy, like cheese and milk and that type of food. And like Indian food, for example, uses like a lot of spices and is very spicy. And then obesity is impacted by the genetics and environment. So then for module 39, this is about sexual motivation. So just like as a PSA, like I took this class last year and I took the AP exam last year and it's really this is like you don't really need to know this stuff, but just to be safe, I'll like talk about it a little bit. So the sexual response cycle has four stages, which are excitement, plateau, orgasm, and resolution. The refractory period is a resting period after orgasm during which a man cannot achieve another one. Sexual dysfunction is a problem that consistently impairs sexual arousal. And then estrogen is a hormone that is greater in females and testosterone is greater in males. And those are both sex hormones. Then module 40 is essentially just like a long module, basically just saying that as humans, we have the need to belong and fit in socially. So some of our motivation, especially when we're in social situations, we learn this in social psychology, is that we want to fit in, we want to be like other people. And so in order to do that, we're motivated to do other types of behaviors and like things that we do. So for example, peer pressure is a big thing like that because we want to fit in with our peers. And so we're motivated to do things that might be a little bit eccentric or unconventional. Then module 41 is talking about the theories of emotion. And so emotion is a phenomenon that involves physiological response, expressive behavior, and conscious experience. And so the James Lang theory tries to describe emotion by saying that our experience is it basically starts with the physiological responses and um then we when we become aware of it, then like our awareness and like conscious awareness of it, that becomes our emotion. So essentially, like let's say like you get like very nervous and like you get sweaty palms. So like the first thing that happens is that you'll get the sweaty palms, and then because your palms are sweaty, you'll say like, "Oh, I'm nervous now." That's how you'll like think of the emotion that you're experiencing. Then the Cannon-Bard theory is that physiological response and subjective experience are simultaneous. So they're essentially saying that what like while you're getting sweaty palms, like at the exact same time, you're thinking to yourself that, oh, I'm feeling nervous. And then the two-factor theory, also known as the Schachter and Singer theory, is that to experience emotion, one needs to be physically aroused and then cognitively label it. So it's kind of similar to the James Lang theory, except James Lang theory, like the second step is more of conscious awareness rather than actually like giving it a label. The Schachter Singer two-factor theory is more about like physiological arousal and then labeling it instead of the awareness part of it. And then Ledoux is not that important, but he says that some responses happen instantly without cognitive appraisal. And then Lazarus says that cognitive appraisal happens without our awareness sometimes, and that is emotion. So then module 42, a big thing is the facial feedback effect, which is that the position of your facial muscles can trigger other feelings. So essentially, like, let's say you're feeling sad. If you just kind of like force yourself to smile for a little bit, then eventually you'll start feeling happy again. And so that's because lots of our communication as humans are through body language and expressions. So I think this is like underplayed a lot, especially in normal society, but like a lot of the interactions we have and a lot of the impressions we have of people come from other people's body language and like signals that they give to others. And then certain emotions are common among all cultures. So these emotions are, if you ever forget it, then just think of Inside Out. So the five emotions from Inside Out are the emotions that are common among all cultures, which are joy, sadness, anger, disgust, and fear. And then there are two more in addition to that, which are surprise and contempt. Those are the additional um, emotions that are similar among all cultures. And then stress is the next discussion. And stress is the process of perceiving events as threatening or challenging. And Hans Selye created the general adaptation syndrome to kind of describe the process of stress. And so there are three stages, which are alarm, resistance, and exhaustion. And so alarm is basically when you become like aware or when the stressor is introduced into the environment. And then that's when the stress kind of starts. Resistance is like when you're kind of trying to cope with that stress, trying to do things in order to get rid of that stress. And if you aren't able to resist the stress or like kind of get over it, and it happens for like a long period of time, then you go into exhaustion period, which is like a big slump or like lots of sickness may happen after stress. And so then tend and befriend is the phenomenon when you're under stress. People will provide support to others and seek support from others when they're under a lot of stress. And so for module 44, they talk a lot about how like stress may impact your illnesses. And so psychophysiological illnesses are physiological illnesses that are impacted by your psychological state. And so like we talked about in the exhaustion stage of stress, when you're under a lot of stress and like for like a long period of time, over time, like it'll actually negatively impact your immune system. And so then you will end up, a lot of people like when they're super stressed for a long time, they'll end up becoming sick afterwards because of the fact that their immune system has been broken down. So, like, an example of this is like, I'm not sure if any of you guys have ever experienced this, but at least for me, like most times like after like finals week, like that whole month I'm really stressed about finals, and so then like during winter break like I'm usually like sick and like in bed because of that, because of the like incredible amounts of stress that I was under. Okay, so now here are some questions for you guys to answer. If you guys want to put your answers in the chat, you can just go like A, B, C, D, E for like each question and then just answer them.
Yeah, let's just start with the first question. So once you guys are done, put that in the chat and then we'll discuss the answer. Okay, 10 more seconds. Okay, are you guys ready to have the answers revealed?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can't see the chat right now, but hopefully
Okay.
for number one, you guys picked E, confusion. So like I just said, like pretty much 3 minutes ago, so the five like emotions that are common among, or there's seven emotions common among every culture. And then if you want to remember them easily, there's the five from Inside Out: joy, sadness, anger, disgust, and fear. And then in addition to that, there's two more, which are surprise and contempt. Okay, cool. So I hope you guys got that right. So now if you guys want, you can do number two on the right. Um, and A, B, C, D, you can put your answers in the chat.
Okay, are we ready to move on? Okay, I think we're all set because I feel like some people are messaging. Yeah, okay.
Okay. Yeah, so the answer to this is A, self-actualization. So I also said this when we were talking about the hierarchy of needs, but each like level of the hierarchy of needs is like a different type of need that people try to satisfy, and that's how the motivation arises. And then I talked about the two important tiers to know, which are the bottom tier and the top tier. So the bottom tier is physiological needs, which is like the most basic needs that people need to satisfy. And then at the top is self actualization, which is the thing that everyone tries to achieve and satisfy, like when they're with their overall goals. So that comes after physiological needs, and then things like um, safety, and then belonging, and all these other types of needs that are on the hierarchy. Okay, so now we can do number three, which is over here. You guys can type in the chat A, B, C, or D, or E.
Okay. Grace, do you want to say the answer?
Okay, so the answer is C, the hypothesis that in response to environmental changes, a physiological change happens first, which then prompts an emotion. So that's basically what the James Lang theory is. And I think this one was pretty easy because pretty much none of the other options have anything to do with emotion. So that one was a pretty easy one to get. Um, Now, here's the last one. Which theory of emotion states that physiological arousal towards a stimulus happens first, and then the person must cognitively interpret the reason behind the arousal and assign an emotion to it? So yeah, you can put in the chat A, B, C, D, or E.
Okay, are we ready to go? I'm seeing a lot of C's from you guys.
Okay, yeah, so that's right. It is C, Schachter-Singer theory, two-factor theory. Um, so like we talked about before, James Lang and Schachter-Singer theories are pretty similar, but they are a little bit different. So this one has like kind of that additional step where it's like they cognitively interpret and then assign an emotion to it, whereas James Lang is more of you have the physiological experience and then you just kind of are consciously aware of the emotion that you're experiencing. Okay, so yeah, that's all I have prepared. I know it was like pretty small, wasn't really like a big yeah, wasn't
Oh,
really big.
we have a question in the chat for you, Grace.
Okay.
It says, Canon Bard is when you experience both at the same time. So I think she's meaning like both the
Yeah, yeah, that's
labeling. Yeah.
yeah, I did say that earlier that canon bard is when you experience both of them simultaneously. If I misspoke, I'm sorry, but I meant yeah, James Lang and Schachter Singer are the two that I was just talking about, and yeah, canon bard is the one where things happen simultaneously. Okay, so yeah, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to ask now. But like I said, yeah, look a lot more intently at the study guide that Stephanie had put in the chat earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys want to go over more MCQ questions? Okay, let me just share my screen because I have a lot of questions for you guys. Hold on. Okay, so this is basically just the Myers textbook. So let's do you guys want to have like do you guys want to go over these questions or are you guys like if you guys want to like go, feel free to go, but I feel like it'll be nice if we can like go over these questions. Okay, let's start with this question. It says, which theory explains why, even when our biological needs are satisfied, we may still feel driven to experience stimulation. Yeah, so put them in the chat and we'll go over it in a few seconds. Okay, so the correct answer for three, I think, is D, arousal theory. Um, Grace fact check me, but I feel like it's arousal theory because we're always trying to seek the optimum like levels of arousal. And even
Yeah.
if that may not mean like it'll like make us satisfied biologically.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's right.
Yeah, perfect. So question four, I'll give you guys like 20 seconds. Okay, Grace. What do you think is wait, what do you guys think is correct answer?
So I'm pretty sure it's D. I'm not exactly,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because basically, like it's saying rapid loss during the initial 3 weeks and then weight loss comes slowly after that. And yeah, it's because like the body is not really used to like that sort of like weight loss, I guess. If
Mm-hmm.
there's like a rigorous diet and then if it's being starved, then its metabolic rates will drop because of the fact that your weight is dramatically changing.
Yeah. And all these other ones, they're kind of like they don't have any like science to back it off, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just yeah. Okay. Moving on. Hold on. Sorry. Um, okay, these are all like about hunger. Let's do something else. Okay, this looks interesting, but I don't know if this AP is gonna like test you this. So, which of the following actions is a violation of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? A person who moves to a new city gets an apartment before beginning to make friends. A very hungry reality show contestant searches for food before trying to win a competition. A professor spends time socially with her colleagues before she works on her own research. An artist works to win local award before spending time on his own personal projects. An athlete follows a no pain, no gain model rather than stopping for rest and nourishment. So it's asking for which one is the violation. So that means like it's not correct.
Yeah. So, like I said before, like you don't really need to know each individual like level of the hierarchy of needs. So that's why I only mentioned the top and the bottom one. But for this question specifically, you do need to know what the order is for the hierarchy of needs.
Yep. Okay, so you guys got it correct. The correct answer is E, right?
Yeah.
Because like if you just don't have that rest and nourishment, which is like the basics of the Maslow's hierarchy, you don't have any of those, you're not supporting any of your basic needs, and how are you going to, gain like actually improve in your sport, right? So that's like evaluation. Okay. Um, which question do you guys want to go over? Any like specific topics you guys want to do? Oh, we some people want to go over module 83 and 84. So yeah, let's go over that. Hold on. So 83 and 84, I think is just like about like um how to have a great well-being and also about like anger. Yeah, so um it's about identifying some basic emotions, causes and consequences of anger, cause and consequences of happiness. I feel like this one is just more about like knowing the concept. I think the most important concepts is like the theories of motion.
Yeah. And so for
Yeah.
modules like these at the end of the book, honestly, most of it is pretty much common sense. So even if you're tested on it, like I think it'll be pretty easy to
Yeah.
determine.
Oh, let's just go over this question. Which of the following is an example of the feel good, do good phenomenon? Agatha tries to keep her 2-year-old son from becoming upset for any reason. Nico is praised by his teacher and later volunteers to help his mother clean the garage. Car Harrison feels satisfied after helping the ecology club pick up trash around the school. Maggie's parents doubled her allowance when she was nice to her sister all day. Rowan was finally glad to be over the flu so he could return his volunteer work. Yeah, so the answer is going to be B because, like he's praised by the teacher, which is like, you feel good, and then he would do good, which is like volunteering to help his mother clean the garage. And then this one of the relationship between health and wealth and happiness is basically like, once you meet like a certain threshold, I think it's like they did a study in like 20 like the 2000s and it was like 70K, but it might be like much greater now in this today's economy, but basically like once you hit that certain point where you can like afford, food, your basic needs, and like basically like some basic stuff at like that set point, your happiness basically plateaus, like the level plateaus because of the, adaptation level phenomenon. And also like, you just get used to that kind of lifestyle.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, so you got any other questions? Because this is gonna like end in 1 minute. Hold on.